answering the most popular question that is there today on the internet. What is exactly Queen's Gambit? Well, you know, this web series has been just launched by Netflix and it is very popular in all the crowds. But many of the people, they don't know what is exactly Queen's Gambit. So in this video, I will try to explain you the exact meaning of the Queen's Gambit. So Queen's Gambit is basically a chess opening. It starts with the move pawn to d4. Now this move pawn to d4, when you push your pawn in front of the queen 2 squares, it is known as the queen's pawn opening. And the most popular response for black is either to play this move pawn to d5 or to play the move knight to f6. And when black plays this move pawn to d5, well, in this position we can play the opening that is named as the Queen's Gambit. We can play the move c4. But before going there, I would like to explain you what exactly the meaning of the gambit. So gambit is when one side sacrifices a pawn in order to get something. So here white plays this move c4. As you can see, this pawn is not defended by any of the white pieces. So it's a real gambit. And now black has a lot of choices in this opening. But the position that we have on the board right now, it is the opening position of the Queen's Gambit. And we call it a Queen's Gambit because it is played on the queen side and we have sacrificed this pawn. Hence it is a gambit. So this is the starting position of the Queen's Gambit. Just like Queen's Gambit, there is also King's Gambit when white plays the move e4, e5, and when white plays the move f4. Now this is the King's Gambit because again we are sacrificing the pawn on f4 for free to get a lead in development. Now coming back to the Queen's Gambit, let me explain to you the general idea as well. So after the move d4, d5, you already know after the move c4 we have the Queen's Gambit here. Now what's the idea of this gambit? Well, the ideal opening position that white aims for is to get his pawn to e4 and d4. And when after the move d4 black replies with d5, he can't really push e4 because the pawn will be captured for free. So in order to get his pawn to e4, white first sacrifices his pawn on the queen side. And as you know, the central pawns are more important than the flank pawns. So he sacrifices one flank pawn, and when black captures it, then white plays the move e4. So in order to get the perfect center with pawn on e4 and d4, he has sacrificed his pawn on the queen side. And this is the basic idea of the opening Queen's Gambit. And now he has a free development. He can capture this pawn later on with his bishop. He can develop his knight and can castle and can get a very good opening position. So that's the idea of the Queen's Gambit. In order to get some initiative and the advantage in the center, white sacrifices this pawn. Now I will also tell you what are the ways black plays this position. So there are a lot of possibilities here from the black side as well. It is often considered as the accepting this sacrifice is little dangerous for black. So he generally avoids it, but he can play a move like c6, declining this sacrifice. This is known as the Slav defense. He can also play the move e6. This is known as the Queen's Gambit decline territory, and again there is a lot of theory. Also he can play this sharp gambit, which is known as the Albin counter gambit. This is also option. He can also play the Morozovic's favorite knight to c6, known as the Chigorin defense. He can also play the knight f6, which is well known as the Marshall defense. It is also slightly considered as dubious, but it is also an option. So these are all the main options that black has in this position. Also accepting the sacrifice is also one of the ways, this gambit pawn. So what's the significance of this opening in the chess world? That we will also like to study. So basically this opening is played from very early days and it is the most popular opening in all the world championship matches. You can remember Carlsen-Anand matches and many other matches where this was the main territory where both the players were fighting. And the only win that Vishwanathan Anand scored against Magnus Carlsen was actually in this opening from the white side, where he had prepared a very deep novelty and then he went on to win. So this is the opening for the world championship matches as well. So it has quite a lot of reputation, and also it is one of the main ways that black can also tackle this opening. So that was about the Queen's Gambit. Don't forget to like the video if you have enjoyed it. Thank you.